All right, grade 11s, final video for this project, and pre-Christmas probably. Here's what you're required to do for this final project. Step 1, watch these videos. If you've been watching them out of order, you're weird. So you should have already watched them if you're watching this. Okay. And make sure you ask questions about things that are still confusing. Make sure you thoroughly read through the code I provided. Do it with another person. Take turns trying to explain what it does and how it does it. And if neither of you can explain it in a way that makes sense, it's a good sign that you might have to ask some questions about it. And then I want you to make your choice about how you want to proceed. Do you want to integrate the code I've shown you here into your previous project? You can copy and paste sections, but you have to be paying careful attention to the way that you've named things and organized things, because things could break pretty easily, but it would allow you to retain some of the work you've already done. Or you could do this other option, which is probably the one that you should choose if you're feeling at all unconfident about what you're doing. Or maybe try this first one briefly first, and if everything breaks, well then go off the second option. Use the code that I'm providing you here, that I've just shown you in all these tutorials as a baseline, and then you can add your own code on top of it. But make sure that you are focusing on adding your own code then, because I won't be marking my code at all. Next, you're going to follow the project instructions to create your own extensions to this code base. This is going to be a bit different than before. I've given you 4 challenge areas that I want you to choose from some options to implement into your own program. You must choose a minimum of 1 from each category, although the last one I think I asked for 2. More is always better for really high scores, but don't overcomplicate it off the start. Choose 1 from each category. And please do note, I will be requiring you to tell me which challenge tasks you're planning on undertaking over the next few days. I want to keep track of what you're deciding to try and tackle. Partly so that I can let you know if I think you're choosing something that is not the right choice for your particular project or where you're at in your learning, and also so that I know what to be looking for specifically when I mark your work. If you end up changing your mind or going beyond what you tell me, you need to let me know and update me. Also, make the sections you add and create clear in your code using comments. This is a super important section for your syntax and style to be really evident. I've heavily commented the code that I've shared with you. You should be heavily commenting the sections you add, both so that it's clear to me what you tried to do, and also so that I can easily find your own code sections while I'm marking. So what are the sections here? The first one is loops. You must implement at least one example of your own loop. Minimum. More is good. Here's a couple options. A, you could auto-generate some of your level's platforms, or B, you could add enemies to your world with for loops. I'll let you read through the instructions about that on your own, but generally speaking, I need to see evidence that you are understanding and implementing for loops to add things into your world. Got it? Section 2, collision detection. I'm not expecting you to reinvent the wheel with collision detection. What I want to see is that you're able to use the ideas that I presented to you to get collision detection working in a way that I haven't created for you. Here's a few options, A, B, and A. Oh, look at that, beautiful. A, fix up Koopa's collision detection so it stops being so glitchy. There's a lot you can borrow from Mario's code to get this to work. Try and get it so that the Koopa is able to respond, particularly when it jumps up into a box. Much better. The way right now he operates is very rudimentary. Or B, you can add some smarter collision detection between Mario and the Koopa. Think about actual Mario game. Mario jumps in the Koopa's head, he goes into a shell, Mario runs into his side, Mario takes damage or dies or whatever. Or C, you can create a new enemy with your own take on collision detection. Maybe you want to adapt things to show your understanding by changing slightly how objects interact with one another. Maybe jump on an enemy's head and it doesn't take any damage, but if you run into it from behind, it does. You can be creative in how you approach this. That would show some awesome implementation. I think C, what should be C down here, is where you can show me the best understanding for those trying to show me the highest levels of understanding. Although B is a pretty good option too. Third section, animations. We've done a lot of work with this already, but I want you to add on one more layer of this to really show me that you've mastered this topic and that you can include the Boolean triggers to get this to work. A, maybe Mario animates from taking damage. B, maybe when you hit a block, from beneath, it actually moves and animates slightly to show that interaction. Or maybe C, you add a brand new enemy type with its own set of animations for movement and interacting with Mario. C is something you might have already done a lot of work with in your previous weeks. You are totally welcome to use the assets that you've been creating and the strategies you've been using for that solution as well, for sure. And the final section, this is where it gets really fun. I want you to implement at least 2 of these to get full credit for this. Extended functionality. I provided a big list of things here. Notice the final thing at the very bottom of the list. Maybe you have your own idea. Make sure you clear it with me first so I can let you know A, if it's possible, B, if it's wise, and C, if it's acceptable to get credit for this section. Really important that you do so I can add it to my rundown of how this is going to work. This project is going to be marked on criterions B and C like normal, syntax and style, and modularity generalization. Criterion A is going to be slightly different. I provide a list here of what I'm looking for in terms of the various levels of success. Note that even an incomplete implementation does get you pretty far down the list, so trying to provide solutions, even if you don't fully succeed in doing so, is totally worth your time. If you don't try, you cannot creep further up this list. And of course, if you want to reach the highest levels of success, you should be going above and beyond, doing more than 1 per section and doing them really well. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do. One thing that I do want to point out is that you can create a world that's kind of self-contained in a small map like we've done usually here. With enemies spawning and different interactions, that's fine. But it's not very difficult to take your world and to just go, let's make this 4,000 instead. And now, with the scroll bar, I have much more real estate to work with, where I can add in lots of things, either using my for loops, or I can literally just drop in coin blocks, try to be more careful with where I drop them over here. Maybe I have some pipes being implemented into my world. Maybe I want to remove some blocks so that I have a pit that I can die in, like in a Mario game. I can stack up some of these blocks here to make an interesting platform. If I'm a bit more careful, it'll look better, but that's okay. And when I've done this, I can just go save the world. And it's going to remember where I've added all this stuff in. So once I got my for loop working, I can just kind of customize things here. And of course, something broke. So Greenfoot did a dumb, but that's okay. It should normally work well to just add all these things in. Oh, I know why. It's because I can't move these around after I've auto-generated them. It's going to get a bit confused about that. I should have added in my own blocks previously. That's okay. So great place to end, me breaking my program. Lots of ways that you can make your levels much more complete without a lot of extra work. I love to see multiple levels. I'd love to see cool enemy types. I love to be able to actually feel like I'm playing a Mario game when I test out your project. Let's get to it. It's a fun project, I hope, with some good elements of creativity and challenge before you. It will be due before you head off the Christmas break. When we're back, we'll move on to our final projects of the course with something a little bit different and new.